Yes, I do. I do speak 7 languages: Spanish, French, Portuguese, Russian, Italian. And of course, since I know the Romance languages and I know Russian, which is a Slavic language, I can comprehend a little bit of the Slavic languages too. My profession, of course, is I'm a neurolinguist, so I specialize in language and the brain. So that's my area of expertise. And I'm a former professor from Florida International University in Miami. I'm now retired, and I'm traveling with Braco, studying what happens in the person's brain when you meet Braco. And as you know, the brain has 2 hemispheres, the right and left hemisphere, and they process information differently. The left hemisphere processes information linearly. It is the mathematical hemisphere, it is the linguistics hemisphere, the logical hemisphere. And the right hemisphere, on the other hand, processes information circularly, in parallel, and it is where the intuition is housed. Now, what happens when you are in the presence of Braco? Well, when you're in the presence of Braco, new neurological connections are created in your right hemisphere. We're doing a study right now using neurofeedback to determine what happens in the brain. Now, as you know, the right hemisphere is able to process information circularly, but it can create new neurological connections the same as the left hemisphere. Each neuron of the brain can make 100,000 connections, and we have 1 trillion neurons. So if you imagine the 1 trillion taken to the 100,000 power, it gives you the capacity of the human brain. Now, a person like Braco uses a little bit more of his brain than we do. We use only 10% of our brain. If we were to use our entire brain, we'll be more than Braco. We'll be like gods on earth. Of course, that is not yet at this stage of development possible, but it will be sometime in the very distant future. Now, what is it that is created when Braco is you're around Braco in his presence? New neurological connections are created. They're created in the right hemisphere, and as you know, these neurons communicate with each other electromagnetically. They put a spark on the other spark on the other spark and create a neural pathway. Now, this neural pathway is an electromagnetic pathway which sends frequencies from 15 hertz to 45 hertz. And you know about the alpha waves in the brain, the beta, the gamma, and the delta wave. We are able to measure those with neurofeedback equipment. When you're in the presence of Braco, the right hemisphere, which does not learn linearly, but learns instantaneously and immediately, creates a new neurological connection. When that new neurological connection is created, then you feel better, you have a feeling of well-being, and furthermore, the electromagnetic waves of Braco's gaze, and also that of the people who are in the room who create a dynamo effect, they also affect the DNA, because we have already proven in the lab that DNA is sensitive to light and electromagnetic waves. And if the DNA is altered, then healing starts to take place. Now, you did ask me before, why is it that sometimes it doesn't stay with you? Well, the same way as when you learn something, you forget. Since you're creating a new neurological connection, it could be that connection get disconnected. You know, I mean, it's just normal. Like when you learn a language, you don't use it for a while, what happens? You get rusty with it, right? You can't speak it. You have problems with it. Well, that's, of course, left hemisphere learning. I'm talking about here right hemisphere learning. Right hemisphere learning does not take place like when you learn a language that you have to do the practice and the exercises. No, it takes instantaneously. It takes place instantaneously, and it takes place simply being in the presence of someone who's already wired or connected. And of course, the other people in the room also help you and assist you on that connecting. Now, if we use neurofeedback equipment with participants, you know, and of course this would require the permission of people who go to see Braco, and we do the study that I am planning, which is to do an electroencephalogram with a computer, a neurofeedback electroencephalogram with a computer before and after. We would be able to see how the new neurological connections have been created. And of course, if we were to use Braco as a study himself. We could wire him to the electroencephalogram and to the neurofeedback equipment and see what goes on in his brain. But of course, we don't want to use Braco as a guinea pig, as an experiment. We want to just be able to understand what happens in the brain when we're in the presence of Braco. I have met Braco several times, and I've been with him several times, and he has not been gazing when he, and I have not really felt the gaze when he's with me, just like a person, But I don't know. It depends. It could be. It's something that we need to study. I don't know. I'm just talking about my own experience there. Yes, it is important to look at the pictures, and it is important to look at the videos, and the reason for that is that we forget. In other words, just the same way as neurological connections are made, they're also not made. They are destroyed. They are destroyed for many reasons, like I said, like memory, because the cells in the brain have memory, but the memory doesn't last forever. So it's a good idea, if you want to be connected, to go and see a picture or see a video that reminds you. It's just like a reminder. It reminds that the connection was there and the connection is made again, because they're not permanent connections for now. For now, they're not permanent. I don't have the way to make it so that they are permanent. But the more times you are in the presence of Braco, the more the connections get stronger, you see, and they can eventually become permanent. Okay? It's the same as when you learn a language. You don't use it for a while, you start forgetting. But then you go back to the environment where the language is at, and then you pick it back very quickly. So that means you forget, but you can also bring it back. Okay? Yes, I use the sunshine. Yeah? I have 3 of these little sunshine.
What can you say about
it? It's like a connection. It's a reminder. The same as looking at the video or see. I mean, as far as my impression is concerned, as far as my own, not this time not scientific, just my own personal. Just by looking at it, it reminds me of the fact that the connection was there, and that it needs to be remade. First time he was in Miami, I brought my mother along. My mother is 95 years old now. She was 94 at the time. I'm 65 and now retired from the university. And she has osteoporosis, but when she went to see Braco, her pains disappeared. The pains disappeared, and then she started walking faster than me. And of course, like anything, these things get forgotten, and she's very well now, but she at times get her aches, and she looks at Brad's picture and it comes back.
Oh.
I mean, the strength comes back. So that's why that's how I've done my study in a way, using my mother as an example, and that's how I met Brad, so through my mother. Yes, I'm writing a book right now, a scientific book based on this information that I've given you, but like all scientific books, they take time. They cannot be written like anecdotes in one week or 2 weeks. You have to do the research, and you have to also do the experiments. And until the experiments are ready and the book is ready, it might take 5 years to get it done. I will not come out with a book. I will not come out with a book until the scientific community can look at it and say, that makes sense.